Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dogs, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdogs.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday, Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the New York Yankees. Luis Gil and Graham Ashcraft are your projected starters. Obviously, Luis Gil has struggled in those last two games against the Orioles and the Mets. Those are two pretty tough lineups right now. You know, the Orioles have been one of the best lineups in baseball this season, but the Mets are also number 3 in the last month in team OPS against righties. So here, you know, pitching against the Reds, I think it's a much better matchup, and I do think Gil bounces back. I still think he's been one of the better pitchers in the American League. And I think the Yankees back him up here offensively. You know, Graham Ashcraft, I've mentioned, I'd much rather take him on the road than at Great American. But even in his last road start, I mean, obviously it was at Coors Field, so he struggled there. But his last road game at Wrigley Field on May 31st, 4 2/3 innings, 5 base hits, 3 runs, a home run to go with it. So not really sharp there. He's not really pitching deep into ball games, which is a concern. I got to go with the Yankees in this one, lay the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Miami Marlins. Cutter Crawford and Valente Belloso are your projected starters. Belloso pitched well in his Major League debut, 5 innings of shutout baseball, but only 2 strikeouts. I do think this is a much tougher matchup here against a Red Sox team. It's top 5 in baseball and team OPS against righties in the last month. Low strikeout rate to go with it. I think the Red Sox can get to him and the Marlins bullpen. And, you know, Cutter Crawford, we know he's given up a lot of home runs recently. He's given up at least 2 in his last 3 starts, but we've mentioned that that's really been the only damage that he's been giving up is like solo home runs. His last game, 6 1/3 innings, 3 runs. It was all 3 home runs, but still a quality start with 7 strikeouts in the end. The previous game, the same thing, you know, against the Yankees, 6 innings, 3 runs. He gave up 2 home runs, but it was still a quality start. He had 9 strikeouts, and it was good enough for the Red Sox to go on and win that game. So I don't love the fact that he's given up that many, you know, that much sharp contact, but at least he's earning strikeouts. I think he's a better option in this game. I think the Red Sox win this one on the run line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Chris Flexen and Carlos Carrasco are your starters. I don't really love either of these options in this game. I think the Guardians have a big series here offensively against the White Sox starters and bullpen, and I like the over in this one. I think Cleveland does win the game, but I don't love the price. You know, Carrasco, he's pitched, you know, a little bit better as of late, but still don't love the fact that he doesn't really miss a lot of bats. The control can be off, and the expected numbers are a little bit better than his current ERA, but not by much. Chris Flexen, you know, he's had an inconsistent season. He pitched really well at one point, but still the ERA above 5 on the year. His last game against the Dodgers wasn't good enough. 5 2/3, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs to go with it. And the White Sox have lost a lot of his games recently, so it's tough to get there with Chicago, even at this kind of price. I got to go with the over here in the White Sox and Guardians. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Kyle Gibson and Mitch Keller are your starters. Now, I do think Mitch Keller is the better starting pitcher in this game, but I think St. Louis has the advantage in basically all the other facets of the game in this series and in this matchup. You know, I think they have the better bullpen and especially the lineup. I mean, the Pirates in the last month, 26th in baseball and team OPS against righties, 25% strikeout rate as well. I think if Gibson can at least just go 5 to 6 decent innings and keep the Cardinals in the game and, you know, not give up a 4 spot like he did in that last one against Atlanta, the Cardinals will have a chance to win this one late if it's a close game, even if they're trailing by a run or two, because, you know, Gibson's done a good job since the start of this. He struggled early on in his first few starts with the Cardinals, but in the month of May, he had a 3.3 ERA. So far in June, even though he struggled a bit in that last start against Atlanta, he's still got a sub-4 ERA. So he's been able to keep the Cardinals competitive. I think he does so here, and I think we see the Cardinals find a win late in this one. So give me the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line with a lean towards the under in this one as well. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Washington Nationals. Sean Manaea and DJ Hertz are your starters. So a pair of lefties on the mound in this one. Manaea's in good form. We saw that last game against the Yankees. Tough lineup. 5 innings, no earned runs. Now, he had 5 walks. He had some trouble with the control, but he was able to get out of those jams, and he was also given a lot of run support, which I expect in this game as well. I mean, the Mets are crushing lefties in the last 30 days. DJ Hertz, after a strong start to his Major League career, has struggled recently. His last 2 games, 7 earned runs given up combined, 4 home runs to go with it. So for me, I got to go with the New York Mets in this one and take them on the money line and run line. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Spencer Arrighetti and Jose Barrios are your starters. Now, Jose Barrios definitely a step in the right direction with that last game against the Yankees. He was able to earn 8 strikeouts in 7 innings. He was able to go 7 innings, which we haven't seen him really pitch deep into ball games recently. So that was definitely a good sign. But still gave up a home run in that one. He's given up a lot of home runs recently, and I still think that the Astros lineup a really tough one to face right now for a righty or a lefty. And Spencer Arrighetti, while he struggled mightily in that one game against the Detroit Tigers back on June 15th, he bounced back in a big way in that last game against the Rockies. 7 innings of 10 strikeout baseball, exactly what the Astros are looking for. I think he's going to be good enough here for the Astros to find the victory. I trust this lineup a lot more and the bullpen, so give me Houston on the money line. Next up, the San Francisco Giants taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Hayden Birdsong for the Giants and Reynaldo Lopez for the Atlanta Braves. And there is no doubting that Reynaldo Lopez has been excellent this year. 1.7 ERA. He's been one of the better pitchers in the National League, and I'm not taking anything away from his game this year. However, I do want to mention that in the last couple of starts, a little bit concerning for me. I don't love the fact that he only went 5 innings apiece in those games against Detroit and St. Louis. Now, the Braves still want to win those games. Lopez pitched fine. However, he gave up 7 base hits and a walk in that game against Detroit. So a lot of base runners. They had a lot of opportunities. They just weren't great with runners in scoring position in that game. Lopez was able to get a jams, but still a little bit concerning there. Then you look at that last matchup against St. Louis. 4 walks given up, so the control was off. Gave up 4 base hits, still 2 runs given up in those 5 innings. You look at his ERA at 1.7, but you look at the expected ERA at 3.98, over 2 runs higher than that current ERA. The last time we kind of had a conversation about a starting pitcher like this with a sub-2 ERA going into a start was Shota Imanaga when he was up against the New York Mets, and we know how that went. Now, I'm not saying Lopez is going to get shelled in this game, but I do think he's a little bit overvalued in this spot against an underrated Giants team, underrated lineup, and an underrated bullpen. Birdsong may not be my favorite option, but I think as long as he does a decent job in this game against Braves lineup has been inconsistent this year. I think his team has a great chance to win this game outright, and especially at this kind of price. I'm going to take a shot here with the San Francisco Giants plus the 1.5 runs and on the money line in this one. Next up, the Detroit Tigers taking on the Minnesota Twins. Tarik Skubal and Simeon Woods Richardson are your starters. Skubal had a nice bounce-back start in that last game against the Phillies. 7 innings of 7 strikeout shutout baseball. However, his last 2 road games, that game was at Comerica Park, but his last 2 road games against the Braves and the Astros, not great. 10 in the third innings, 9 total runs, 8 of those were earned, 3 home runs to go with it, and 13 base hits. You're facing a Twins lineup that in the last 30 days has crushed left-handed pitching, and Skubal is on the road for this start. I know Woods Richardson may not be as strong recently as he was at the beginning of the season, but he has a really good Twins bullpen behind him, and I just trust the Twins lineup a lot more. So even if Skubal was to pitch pretty well in the late innings, I trust the Twins lineup to get the job done in the end. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Chicago Cubs. Michael Mercado and Hayden Wesneski are your starters. I know Mercado's only had 1 inning at the major league level this year, but he's got a good Phillies lineup and bullpen behind him, even without a few stars in that Phillies lineup. And I've mentioned I don't really like Wesneski as a starting pitching option. I think he's more effective in the bullpen as a long reliever, but as a starter, I don't really love his game. We saw the last game against the Giants, 4 innings, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs to go with it. Now, the Cubs have lost each of the last 5 games that Wesneski has pitched in. Now, a lot of those were out of the bullpen, so you really can't pin those losses on him. But I still just don't love this Cubs bullpen or the Cubs lineup right now at all. And I got to go with the Philadelphia Phillies in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers hosting the San Diego Padres. Nathan Eovaldi is going for the Rangers. No official starter for San Diego. I've mentioned with John Gray and Nathan Eovaldi, they just don't seem to be 100% this year, in my opinion. And we saw Eovaldi give up 9 base hits and 5 earned runs in that last game against the Brewers, including a grand slam in the 6-5 loss. Now, he was able to battle in that game, go 7 innings when the Rangers really needed him to, but still, I just don't love this matchup for him. I think the Padres have the better lineup, at least right now, against right-handed pitching. Now, Texas had a nice end to that series against the Orioles at Camden Yards, but I still trust San Diego more in this game, so I'm going to go with the Padres in the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Kansas City Royals. Zach Littell and Brady Singer are your starters. These are 2 teams that had pretty nice weekends. The Royals were a team that was struggling quite a bit. They played Cleveland, the division leaders in the American League Central. It was a really important series to try to stay afloat in that race, and they did exactly what they needed to do, win 3 of the 4 games at home. And now you have Brady Singer on the mound pitching at home, where we know Singer throughout his career has been better at Kauffman Stadium. And I like the form that he's in right now. I like the fact that the Royals offense got going in that weekend series against Cleveland. And while the Rays, I've mentioned, they're a team I'm looking to back quite often right now, this is just not one of those matchups, in my opinion, because I don't love Littell on the road. He's got an ERA above 5 on the road this season. I'd much rather back him when he's pitching at Tropicana Field, like he was in that last game against Seattle, where he was solid. It wasn't amazing, but 5 innings, 2 runs in a Rays victory. I'm going to go with the Royals in this game, which should be a pretty fun, competitive series, but give me KC in this first game on the money line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Colorado Rockies. Dallas Keuchel and Ryan Feltner are your starters. Yeah, I've mentioned that Dallas Keuchel, I don't really view him as a viable major league starting pitching option anymore. He's had a nice career, including a Cy Young winning season with the Astros, but his game right now, he's a pitch-to-contact guy. The velocity is not there, really never was there, but especially in today's game, the game has really changed from now and 10 years ago. Velocity is really important, and I do think you have to miss some bats, and I just don't trust Keuchel to get that job done, especially at Coors Field, which, for a pitch-to-contact pitcher, pitching at Coors Field is not necessarily the best place. I do think that, when it looks like the weather's going to be quite warm at Coors, it looks like it's going to be pretty beneficial for hitters, and I think we see a high-scoring game. But I also think that the Rockies are the play in terms of a side. I think the value, definitely lies with them at this kind of price. We know the Rockies more competitive at home. Feltner may not be my favorite option, but I think he's good enough here for the Rockies to win this game in the end. So give me the over and the Rockies on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Oakland Athletics. Jose Soriano and Mitch Spence are your starters. Jose Soriano returning from the 15-day IL. Of course, you're always a little bit hesitant backing a starting pitcher in his first game back from injury, but Soriano was pitching really well going, before the injury. Went 8 innings, 2 runs against the Diamondbacks in his last start. I think he's a much better option in this game. I trust the Angels lineup and bullpen even right now more than the Oakland A's bullpen. And Mitch Spence in that last game against the Angels, again, these teams played last week, he gave up 6 earned runs and 8 base hits in a loss. The Athletics have lost each of his last 5 starts, and he's not been a very profitable starter this season. So I got to go with the Los Angeles Angels on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Seattle Mariners. Grayson Rodriguez and George Kirby are your starters. I think we got 2 great starting pitching options in this game, but I just trust the Orioles lineup a lot more in this series and in this matchup. And even the bullpen, I think, can go toe-to-toe with Seattle in this series. The Mariners strike out a lot. They lead the league in strikeout percentage this season, and the strikeouts are rally killers. They're inning killers as well. How many times in that game on Sunday against the Twins where Seattle had, I think, 16 at-bats with runners in scoring position in the first 6 innings or so in that game, did Seattle strike out with a runner in scoring position? We saw the other day on Saturday night, Mitch Garver went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. It's just not where you need to be, especially in today's game. And Grayson Rodriguez can certainly strike out guys. He's a strikeout-dependent starter. George Kirby's pitched a lot better at home, but the Orioles are crushing right-handed pitching in the last month. I got to go with the Baltimore Orioles on the money line in this one. And the final game we're to talk about for the Tuesday card in Major League Baseball, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ryan Nelson and Bobby Miller are your projected starters in this one. Now, Ryan Nelson had one of his best games of the season against these Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. I don't say starts because there was an opener in that one in Hughes, but Nelson took over after the first inning, and he went 5 innings of shutout baseball with 5 strikeouts, was the better starter in that game against Tyler Glasnow, who struggled in that one. And the Diamondbacks wanted to win that game. They were, the Dodgers were minus 325 on the money line in that game. So it was a big performance from Nelson. But I still think that I don't really love Nelson's game right now. And while he's been better on the road, I trust his Dodgers lineup a lot more. Bobby Miller, it's a small sample size for him this season. He's pitched 1 game at home. He was excellent in that game. It was definitely his best start of the year. He went 6 innings of 11 strikeout baseball, no earned runs given up. He has not been great in his first 2 starts back from injury, which were road games against the Rockies and White Sox, but I still think he'll be the better starting pitcher in this game. I trust the Dodgers more here. I'm going to go LA, lay the 1.5 runs, but not a game I'll be rushing to bet. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dogs Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.